Have you ever looked in the mirror and just felt a little disconnected? Like, who even is that person staring back? That really disorienting feeling? It has a name, the identity crisis. Today, we're going to dive into what that is, why it happens, and how, believe it or not, this feeling of completely losing yourself can actually be the very first step to finding a truer you. So let's just jump right in with a pretty tough question. Who are you without your job title? Without your role in your family? Without all the things you've achieved? I mean, really, if you strip all of that away, what's actually left? That question right there, that's the absolute heart of an identity crisis.
Okay, so before we get into how your identity can just shatter, we first need to understand what it's even made of. And it really all comes down to a story. The most important story you'll ever know, really. The story you tell yourself about yourself.
There's a term for this in psychology. They call it your narrative identity. It's kind of like having a little storyteller inside your head that's always running. It's the voice that says, okay, I'm a resilient person because I got through that tough time. Or I'm working towards this goal because I'm passionate about that. It's this story that connects the dots and makes you feel like you're the same person today that you were yesterday. It's the glue.
A really good way to think about it is like a map, a psychological map. It's this internal guide that gives your life a sense of coherence. It helps you make decisions, navigate relationships, and just, understand where you fit in the world. It's what keeps you from feeling totally lost all the time.
But what happens when the map you've been using for years suddenly doesn't match the world around you anymore? What happens when the plot of your own life story takes a huge, unexpected, and honestly pretty jarring turn?
Well, that's usually when a crisis hits. Maybe a career you poured 20 years into just ends. Or a relationship that you thought defined you suddenly dissolves. See, these aren't just little changes in your life. No, these are like psychological earthquakes. They can completely fracture the foundations of that story you've always told yourself, and they leave you feeling completely and utterly adrift. And that right there is the key. An identity crisis isn't just about feeling a bit confused. It's this deep, painful conflict happening inside your own mind. It's a clash between the person you thought you were and this new, uncertain reality you're now face to face with.
So, what does it actually feel like when that internal story falls apart? I mean, this isn't some abstract idea. It's a raw, emotional, full-body experience.
A lot of people describe it this way, a profound sense of disorientation. It's like you're an actor in the middle of a play. You know the stage, you know the other actors, but you've completely forgotten your lines. You feel like a total stranger just walking through the motions of your own life because the script you were following is just gone.
And right on the heels of that confusion, there's often this deep, profound sadness. It's a real grieving process. But you're not mourning someone else. You're mourning the person you used to be. You're grieving the loss of that familiar self and the future you were so sure they were going to have. And of course, without that story, without that map to guide you, the future can just feel like a terrifyingly blank page, an empty void. How can you know where you're going when you don't even know who's making the journey anymore?
All of this creates a really potent and honestly overwhelming emotional cocktail. A huge part of it is anxiety about what's next. Then you've got this hollow feeling of emptiness where your sense of purpose used to be. Add in the grief we just talked about, and often there's this layer of shame too. This feeling that you somehow failed at being the person you were supposed to be. It's a tough cycle because they all feed into each other.
But here's where things get really interesting and, well, a bit hopeful. As painful and as chaotic as this whole collapse feels, it's not the end of the story. Psychologically, it's actually a super critical turning point. It's a crossroads between having a breakdown and having a breakthrough.
At this crossroads, you basically have two ways you can go. Path number one is what psychologists call identity foreclosure. This is the quick fix. It's when you rush to grab the first, most solid-looking identity you can find just to make the discomfort go away. It feels stable for a bit, but it's usually really fragile and you miss out on real growth. Path number two is identity transformation. Now, this is the harder path. It means you have to sit with the uncertainty. You have to explore. You have to be uncomfortable. And you let a more real, authentic self slowly emerge. It's tough, but it leads to true resilience and depth.
So I want you to really hear this. Even though it feels like you are falling apart, you're not going backwards. It's not a regression. What's actually happening is a deep psychological reorganization. Your mind is literally tearing down the old, rickety structures to make room to build something new, something that actually fits who you are today.
Okay, so if this collapse is really a reorganization, how do we get through it? How does that whole rebuilding process even work? Well, it's not about waking up one day and magically finding a new you. It's a much more conscious, step-by-step process of reconstruction.
The road back tends to follow a few key steps. First, you have to regulate before you reconstruct. You can't build a new house in the middle of an earthquake, right? You've got to find your footing and feel safe first. Then, and this part sounds kind of backward, you have to act before you know. You don't find your new identity by just thinking about it. You build it by trying small new things. And finally, from all those new actions, you let a new, more flexible, more authentic story start to take shape.
What's amazing is that a rebuilt identity isn't anchored to those fragile external labels, like a job title. Instead, it's anchored in your core values, things like curiosity, or integrity, or connection. So instead of defining yourself as a lawyer, you might see yourself as someone driven by justice. Your values become your new compass, and they can guide you through any of life's changes in a way a rigid label just can't.
I love this idea because it just perfectly captures the whole shift. You move from seeing yourself as a static thing, a finished product, a noun, to seeing yourself as a process, a constant unfolding, a verb. Your identity stops being about who I am as some final destination, and it becomes all about the journey of who I am becoming.
And that really is the ultimate reframe. The goal isn't to get through the crisis, to find one final correct answer to the question, who am I? The real breakthrough is learning to live inside that question. It's about embracing the messy, dynamic, ongoing, beautiful journey of who you are becoming every single moment.